Hello and welcome everybody to another standard video here. Today we're going to be taking a look at Selesnya Tokens here. Now this was a deck, there's various iterations of the Selesnya Aggro deck, and this is the version that Charles Eiler took to win the SCG 10K last weekend. So that's the version that we're going to play here, and it's notably got some differences here. We're playing Tender Wild Guides and some other stuff, but we'll get into it. But at the end of the day, this deck is basically just another kind of aggressive deck. Basically, what it's looking to do is play Llanowar Elves and just a bunch of great creatures that give you a ton of value or a lot of power and toughness, and just try to overwhelm your opponent. So starting things off here, of course, we have, it's a green deck, so of course you're going to be playing the 4 copies of Llanowar Elves, but it also plays 4 copies of Tender Wild Guide, and this is a slot that it's kind of a flex slot in a lot of these green-white variants, but Charles actually opting to use the Tender Wild Guide, just recognizing that he just wants more mana acceleration in this deck, and also acts as a mana sink in the late game, not at its best on turn 2. Hey, but turn 3, turn 4, all of a sudden this creature can get out of hand. So that's the 2 mana creature of choice here for the Selesnya Tokens deck, along with 2 copies of Melira, the Living Cure. This is just a 2 mana 3/3. Kind of ignore the poison part of this, but the nice thing about this card is it just gives you a little bit of protection to save any other creatures that you might have in play. And look, it's a beatdown deck, it's a 2 mana 3/3. Probably the only reason why there's not more copies of this card in the deck is because it's legendary. Then you go into the 3 mana, also, Virtue of Loyalty is nice here because it also acts as another 2 mana creature, but this deck is looking to go wide, and when you go wide, Virtue of Loyalty can still have a ton of good value. Moving into the 3 mana slot, we have Sandstorm Salvager, which is a nice card that's not really seeing a ton of play, but this is a nice little home for it, especially because this is a deck that generates a bunch of tokens. But for 3 mana, getting a 1/1 body that also gives you a 3/3, that's 4 power and 4 toughness for 3 mana with upside, which it makes this card really, really desirable. Also, if somehow they kill the Salvager, you can sack the Melira, have this come back into play, and boom, you get another 3/3 token. Additionally, there's 3 copies of Sanguine Evangelist, another way to generate tokens. Doesn't give you quite as much power and toughness as the Sandstorm Salvager, which is why there's only 3 copies of it, but still a really, really great card. Then we have 4 copies of Pawpatch Recruit. This card is just awesome. There's just a ton of interaction that people are playing. So if you can play this on turn 3 in a creature-heavy deck, it's very, very strong. Obviously, playing at turn 2 off Llanowar Elves is also just a really nice thing. And you also have the ability, if you are on curve, you can just play this turn 1 as well. Moving into turn 4, we have Overlord of the Mistmoors. And this is kind of the reason why you're seeing this deck play 4 copies of Tender Wild Guide, because this allows you to go from 2 to 4. And on turn 3, you can impending the Overlord of the Mistmoors, which is obviously a really, really powerful thing to do. This deck is pretty light on interaction. The only interactive spell that this deck has is 3 copies of Parting Gust. Part of the reason why you can play the Parting Gust here is it's nice with cards like the Sandstorm Salvager and the Sanguine Evangelist. You can blink it for extra value, along with blinking the Overlord of the Mistmoors, but it's also just an interactive spell. Other decks play Sheltered by Ghosts and possibly Get Lost as other interactive elements, but we're going to go with the Parting Gust here because this is what Charles chose to play for the tournament. And then 4 copies of Collector's Cage. We are going deep into the vault here. Really, really great artifact. Really happy to see this card being played more. This is played in both variants of the Selesnya decks. 2 mana for an artifact, Hideaway 5, which means you look at the top 5 cards of your library and you can just hide something underneath the Collector's Cage. And it's really, really easy to trigger this. 1 mana tap, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you can play the exile card for free. So, Collector's Cage with Overlord of the Mistmoors is kind of the dream. You want to hide an Overlord of the Mistmoors underneath the Collector's Cage, and then as early as turn 4 probably, you can get an Overlord into play if you can fulfill the conditions of Collector's Cage. So this deck seems really sweet. It's pretty straightforward. Play a bunch of creatures, go wide, go strong, and then we have some anthem effects like the Virtue of Loyalty. We have Creature Pump and Collector's Cage along with the Sanguine Evangelist. Going into the mana base here, fairly straightforward, a bunch of green-white lands. Going into the sideboard, however, we have 4 copies of Aven Interrupter. This is likely a card that you want to be boarding in against various control decks. So against decks that you're expecting to have sweepers, Aven Interrupter is going to be very, very good. 2 copies of Beza, the Bounding Spring. Excellent, excellent creature against mono red or all aggressive variants here. And not only that, 2 copies of Obstinate Baloth as well. So additional way to gain life in the 4 mana slot. So really, really good sideboard plan here against the aggressive strategies. Noting that people are also playing the black discard spell, Hopeless Nightmare. I'm not sure if you're supposed to board it in that matchup, but I will say, right, if they play Hopeless Nightmare turn 1 and you get them with the Baloth, that is value. Also, a lot of their removal just doesn't kill Baloth, right? The Dimir Bounce deck, for example, plays Nowhere to Run and Cut Downs as its primary removal effects, and only 1 Go for the Throat. So 4/4 is kind of a big game. Additionally, here we have 2 copies of Devout Decree for various black and red creatures and permanents. And then we have 2 copies of Rest in Peace for various graveyard shenanigans. And then 3 copies of Pawpatch Formation for various demon decks. Just a very versatile card to have in the sideboard. So there you have it, folks. Green-white tokens. Let's see how things go. All right, now before we start heading into our matches, I just wanted to say that this video is brought to you by TCGplayer.com. Check out TCGplayer.com for all your TCG singles and sealed product needs. Whether or not you want to pick up some booster boxes of foundations or anything else, or some singles to build your Selesnya Tokens deck, your standard deck or modern deck or commander deck, check out TCGplayer.com and make sure you click that affiliate link in the description below. Additionally, check out HeavyPlay.com for premium Magic the Gathering supplies and accessories. If you want top-of-the-line deck boxes to put your Selesnya Tokens deck into, or playmats, or sleeves, or dice boxes, or more, go to heavyplay.com/paulcheon for 10% off your first order. Additionally, if you're interested in all the content that I make and you've enjoyed all of the content and you wanted to support the channel in another way, well, my Patreon is the best way to do so. That's patreon.com/paulcheon. Shout out to all the patrons. Thank you so much for all your support. It really does mean a lot and allows me to continue making this content on a regular basis. Access to the Patreon will give you access to my Discord channel, which I do really believe is a great way to join an excellent community and also a good way to up your limited and perhaps constructed game as well. All right, winning the die roll here on the play. We have a couple of lands, Tender Wild Guide, and a bunch of creatures. I imagine I'm going to keep this. We have turn 2 Tender Wild Guide into, if we can find an untapped land, a turn 3 Overlord of the Mistmoors on Impending, or we can just play the Sanguine Evangelist with a land tapped. Alrighty. Now, the reason why this deck doesn't play 4 copies of Llanowar, 4 copies of the Restless Prairie, simply just mana issues, right? You just want to maximize on your ability to play turn 1 Llanowar Elves if possible. So kind of this is, you know, this land does seem awesome, but I understand why you would play 3 copies. All right, mono red opponent, turn 1 Cacophony Scamp. All right, let us go Tender Wild Guide here. So probably playing against the Leyline of Resonance deck, but just they don't happen to have the Leyline at the moment. Copperline Gorge, okay. And what is this? Slick Shot Show Off, sure. I guess they're wondering whether or not they want to attack with the Scamp and be happy trading with the Wild Guide. I probably am just going to take the 1 here, if that's what they choose to do. Sandstorm Salvager or Overlord of the Mistmoors. Given that there is a Slick Shot Show-Off, I think I'm more interested in impending the Overlord of the Mistmoors here. And just get this going. The sooner the better, right, for that kind of card. Well, no, this deck doesn't have a ton of interaction, just the 3 copies of the Parting Gust, so this deck fares better against a normal Gruul Aggro deck, I think, but against the combo variant, I do think it struggles just a little bit more. Really, really interesting with what I choose to do here. I can play Sandstorm Salvager or the Sanguine Evangelist. You know, I think I'm going to play the Evangelist just because it gives me a flyer to block the Slick Shot Show-Off. So let's go with something like that. Okay, questing druid. All right, so they are playing it very slow, but I am providing a pretty good clock here, I will say. Another cacophony scamp. Wait, okay, what is happening here? Okay, they're just playing everything? Sure. Alright, that's a 1-2 slick shot show off. I think I can let that happen. And let us put a counter on the Tender Wild Guide. Alright, how do I want to go about this now? There's a Melira, and there's also Pawpatch Recruit. Both seem very, very strong. This is almost coming into play. Certainly playing the Melira here. I'm at 20 life, but I'm terrified. That's how scary this deck is. Alright, I'm going to play the Sandstorm Salvager just because it puts the most power and toughness in play. The question here is, do I want to attack with all of my flyers here? And then put myself vulnerable here to a possible slick shot show-off kill? I'm not sure. Also, the Evangelist isn't the greatest attack. Alright. Okay, here we go. Here we go. 5 cards in hand for the opponent. What can they pull off here? I have the ability to pump all my tokens next turn, which is fantastic. They also all gain trample. I mean, this is obviously just a very scary situation, even when I'm at 20 life. So I cannot take anything for granted here. Oh, they want to kill the Sandstorm Salvager. Sure. I think I want to keep the Melira in play. I could have sacked this. Sure. Okay, do they have another Calicel sword? Hardfire hero, okay. Okay, we're not dead. That's the important thing. We are not dead. I also have Restless Prairie. Does that do anything here? They're at 12 life. When this attacks, all my other creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So they have 4 blockers. If I attack, these attack for 8 damage in the air. And then they can block 1, 2, 3, 4 creatures. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 creatures. So they'll take 4, 8, 11. I'm at 11 life too, obviously. That's very scary. I'm just going to play it, just again, conservatively here. I just feel like it's going to be extremely hard to lose next turn. Overlord of the Mistmoors is also online. This also looks like it flies, but it doesn't. Alright. I'm going to guess that this is going to be enough, though. I will say. I would be shocked if this somehow isn't enough. 3, 4, 5 blockers. I mean, this is just so many creatures, right? Even if they have a removal spell. Like, I have the Pawpatch Recruit, so... Alright. I mean, I could have spent the time to do a little more math there, but... Okay, so definitely gonna need as much interaction as I can bring in. Yeah, I mean, Devout Decree certainly counts. It's not the best. I don't really like Pawpatch formation. They only had the flyer. They do have Leyline of Resonance, though. So that's something to keep in mind. Obstinate Baloth and Beza seem good. Collector's Cage seems a little bit slow. I just don't think I want to pull that off. So let's keep all this interaction here and figure out what else we need to cut out of this configuration. I mean, Pawpatch Recruit also doesn't seem very, very strong in the sense that their deck just doesn't play that much removal, right? So then I'm just playing a 3-mana 2, like, yeah. This doesn't seem very good either. Granted, it's still just something to play early, so maybe it's worth it in that respect. Maybe I should bring in a couple of Pawpatch formations. Let's go with that. Like, not the full 3, but everything else makes tokens or whatever. So let's go with something like this. I could also see shaving on a Virtue and playing another Pawpatch formation. Maybe that's good. Like, on the draw, I just don't know how good the Virtue is going to be there. And I just want as much interaction as my deck can afford. This one I'll keep because I do have the ability to go turn 3 Beza with the Tender Wild Guides. There's a Leyline. Double Leyline. Did they have a creature? Uh-oh. I mean, that's obviously super scary. I'm glad I brought in the Disenchants. But if they have if they mulligan to double Leyline oh god. Oh gosh. Okay, well. They just went Slick Shot Show Off. I might just be dead here. It's very possible. I mean, they could certainly just not have a bunch of combat tricks. Oh no, we're dead. Especially if they have Callous Sellsword. Can you just a turn 3 kill? Yeah. 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 That's a fun deck. I mean, I guess I got to showcase it as well, but what the hell? I just took 21 damage. Okay, well, I'm happy with the way I sideboarded, I guess, with the triple Pawpatch formation. I guess I don't even know why I didn't consider playing it. Oh my gosh. What a beating that was. Here I'm thinking, oh, I have turn 3 Beza. I'm good. I was not good. I was not good. Okay, well, you know what? You know what? Sometimes this happens. I gotta return 2 cards. Okay. Double mulligan is not ideal here. We have the Sanguine Evangelist here. On turn 2 at least, which is not terrible. Sure. Alright, killing my elf off of a double mulligan, very smart. But I do have a decent squad. I'm just trying to find a silver lining here. Cacophony Scamp. Yeah, this is rough. Screaming Nemesis. That's a good one. Okay. Would you like to sack the Scamp? Okay. I guess we're just kind of in a racing situation. In case I drew a 1-mana play, I'm just firing out that Pawpatch formation. Yep, like I said, we are in a racing situation. Monstrous Rage, probably. Yeah, I mean, look. They're gonna hit a land, too. Yeah. Sometimes you get killed on turn 3, and you double mulligan. And that is the nature of the beast. All right, they're at 11. I'm at 6, though. And they have 3 cards in hand. Like, what are the chances we can come back from this one? Oh my gosh. This is savage. This tramples? Goodness. So if I block here... Block here. This needs to block there. Do I have any Anthem effects? Maybe I just should minimize damage here and block here. Block here. I mean, they clearly just have a 1-mana spell here. Yeah, good. Yeah. All right. And you know what? We just got to showcase everything, right? This is part of what can happen. And even when on paper you look at a green-white deck and it looks like it can do well against mono-red, you can just definitely just lose. And that's just part of the game, right? So we just take that and we move on to the next match. All right, opponent on the play this time around. And we have a Llanowar Elf draw, so we're certainly going to keep. And we are playing against some kind of white Caretaker's Talent deck is what we're likely playing against. Yep. This is probably a horrific matchup for us, by the way. I feel like my deck just doesn't put enough pressure on my opponents, but we'll see. Like, my deck is just not very equipped to beating the card Sunfall. And Temporary Lockdown is also very good against me. Let's play the Overlord with Impending here. And now, we don't need to add too much more to the battlefield here, right? The nice thing with the Overlord is even if they Wrath me, I still get this in play later. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. Oh, Lauren. All right, let's play Collector's Cage. And what do we want to play here? It's got to be the Overlord, right? Parting Gust. Oh, Parting Gust is also not terrible against Sunfall. Like, it just gives me something in play. I got to think about this. So let's say I pump my flyers. Then if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers you may play, then I can exile the Sandstorm Salvager and have it come in and still provide a decent clock. I actually think I do want that. And 3, 6, okay. So I'm not going to pump now. Basically, the plan here is since they have Sunfall here, yeah, I am now going to put a counter on something and then cast the Parting Gust on my Sandstorm Salvager. Then if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers. Okay. I think this was good. Or, I think it was at least okay. Let's put it that way. Alright, our opponent's down to 7. Obviously, if they have another Sunfall, then there's not too much I can do. Yeah, I mean, that is certainly something that can happen. They have a bunch of 5/5s. I kind of need flyers. Yeah? Like, they have the ground covered with the 2 big incubator tokens, so I'm just trying to get there with my flyers. Alright, well, that did not work out for us. Let's play a Salvager, and then we'll play Virtue of Loyalty. What do you have at instant speed? That deck plays Virtue of Loyalty? I mean, I guess it's fine. Caretaker's Talent, okay. Alright. This is where it gets kind of out of hand, because they're going to be able to draw a ton of cards. But I do have the Overlord going, so that's going to be good. Virtue seems like the best thing to do here, so I will run it out. Obviously, if they have a way to kill my Virtue, it's not good for me. Get lost on the Virtue? Sure. Okay. Well, I do have Overlord of the Mistmore still, so I do have a game plan here where I can try to win with the... Okay. I mean, I told you, like, my deck's not going to do well against a Sunfall deck. Like, it is what it is, right? Like, it is what it is. Oh my gosh. Okay, I guess we can try to go wide. Another Virtue of Loyalty. Draw a card. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in this matchup, like, Aven Interrupter is my only shot, I think. Just too much value here. Yep. Alrighty. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, wow. Virtue of Loyalty plus Tender of Wild Guide is a really fun combo. I'm not sure it's going to get me anywhere. I mean, that's all I got. Let's hope this Virtue does something. But they're just drawing 2 cards a turn here. It's just... You know the worst part about this is just like... Playing against this deck is just like... The games go on so long. All right. How on earth am I getting out of this? All right, you know what? Let's move on here. Nothing to see. Nothing to see. It's literally just, hey, look, they played Sunfall. We lost the game. All right. Yeah, Interrupter for sure. Don't need Beza or Obstinate Baloth. Do I want Pawpatch formation? Killing Enduring Innocence is not... Killing Caretaker is good. And then possibly killing... Caretaker's Talent. Killing Caretaker's Talent, I think, is pretty important. So let's bring that in. Melira doesn't seem very good. Parting Gust is like a somewhat weak answer to Wraths, but I guess it's something. Pawpatch Recruit doesn't seem very good because they don't have... They rely a lot on their sweepers and not the targeted removal. Let's remove the Melira. And is this good enough? 20... I mean, this is still a ton of creatures. And I'll cut one of the Tender Wild Guides, sure. I want to be able to play the game at instant speed if possible. And, all right. This is the awkward part. Like I mentioned before, the combination of Restless Prairie plus Llanowar Elves. Like, I'm going to keep this hand, but it's not ideal because I can't go turn 1 Elf. I still think it's the play over playing a turn 2 Virtue of Loyalty. Just being able to go turn 3, going turn 3 Overlord of the Mistmoors seems like one of the important ways to kind of put enough pressure on my opponent while also just ensuring that I'm going to have something in play post Sunfall. Okay. Oh, wow. Are they going to cast Temporary Lockdown? All right. If they cast Lockdown, we're just done. Okay, it's a Caretaker's Talent. It's a Caretaker's Talent. Let's play Collector's Cage. See what we hit. Sanguine Evangelist, sure. Beatdown. We get to keep up Parting Gust plus Virtue of Loyalty. I guess Day of Judgment's also legal, isn't it? Oh, man. It's like, what do I do? You know what I mean? What do I do? Play a bunch of crap. Aven Interrupter off the top. That is my only hope. How do I want to do this? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 from this. Is that card good enough here? I don't think so. That's unfortunate. I mean, what do I do against the Sunfall? It's so... I guess... the fact that they had an instant speed removal spell there, right? It's just like, what do I do against the Sunfall? Yep. Well, we drew the Collector's Cage anyways. Can play Virtue of Loyalty, get that going. I can just play Sandstorm Salvager and hope that I can just go wide. That's good. Okay. I mean, I'm trying to come up with some kind of game plan here, but it's tough. Like, they still have 4 cards in hand. They have an active 5/5 here available as well. You know what this deck reminds me of? Like, it's got a bunch of good cards in it. Back a long time ago, Pro Tour Hollywood, Luis and I played a deck called Hammer Time, and it was just green-white good stuff. It was like a kitty deck almost. This is what this deck reminds me of. It's like... Yeah, I mean, this is clearly a bad matchup. Okay, I'm done. I don't want to play this anymore. This is very clearly a bad matchup. I think I can beat the red decks, though. I think I can beat the red decks. And, let's at least try to get a couple of match wins here, okay? Look, we can't just win with all of them. The Dimir Bounce deck did really well. The Gruul Leyline deck did really well. This one... not so much. And the problem is there's just not much I can do. All right, opponent on the play. We have a fine hand. Heartfire Hero. I think this is probably... I just play the Pawpatch Recruit to kind of keep pace with what they're doing. The problem here is... what the? Sanctuary. If they have a monstrous rage, like this is... I can't block. What? I mean, I guess it wasn't going to attack anyways. I'm going to take a grip of damage this turn, but... The only thing with this deck is it's got a bunch of like 2-mana 2/2s. Against mono red, like, is that even good? Like playing a bunch of 2/2s against in a world where there's a million burst lightnings, like why didn't they do that? Okay, well, I think we might win this game. We have Parting Gust available here, along with the ability to make a Virtue of Loyalty. Fish for you. Yeah, I mean, they're super dead. Hey, we got a free win! It only took a mono-red opponent that played a Soulstone Sanctuary that probably hurt them. Do not play colorless lands in your mono-red decks. There's just too many 1-mana spells in that deck where I don't think it's worth it. Rockface Village, I think, is something you can consider, but the colorless lands, I feel like it's just not worth it. All right, we're just going to board a similar way here. Pawpatch formation, though, might not be as good in this particular setup. I don't think they're playing the Leyline deck, so... And that means they're going to play a lot more shocks and stuff, where Pawpatch Recruit actually is fine. I'm trying to figure out which of my creatures are bad. Or cards, rather. I think the Wild Guide's important to ramp into 4. I like my 3s. So it's like the cards on the right, possibly Pawpatch Recruit, probably need to shave some number of these. I can probably overpower my opponents without the Collector's Cage. Yeah, Collector's Cage on the draw seems kind of weak. And then I like the Parting Gust, so it's going to be basically 2 of these. All right, let's trim a couple of Virtues. I think I keep this. I have a 2-drop, a 3-drop, and a 4-drop. Oh. This is really interesting. Like, do I just block? I don't think so. Alright, good thing we didn't block. Because now next turn I have Parting Gust available. Ooh. That is good. I actually need the untapped land. Because I want to go Sanguine Evangelist next turn into Beza. Okay. All in on the Pawpatch Recruit. I can still go for the double block. Obviously, these are all just extremely painful exchanges. Does this have trample? Oh, God. Alright, I guess we're just taking this. I feel like I need to play around Snakeskin Veil. Or Overprotect. Although, I don't know if I can beat Overprotect anyways. God, this is so painful, though. Alright. We're just on trying to stabilize here. I mean, I'm at 4 life here. They've used 2 Monstrous Rages. So there is upside there. They're probably going to pump Hired Claw. Okay. Alright, well... Actually, I'm going to have 1 less card than them. That is awesome. Okay, so let's go Beza. And we're going to gain 4 and draw a card. Okay. Now I need Beza to die. This is yeah, now I had like the second Beza just doesn't do anything. Like what do I even do? Perhaps I took too many of my big mana plays out of my deck. Okay. Pawpatch recruit. Trample. Okay. Oh, man. They're at 12 life. Okay. Play a second Beza. Just to gain life. And draw a card. Ah, not the land. Not the land. Man, they're putting up this much fight with 2 mana. Man, what is happening here? I imagine they're going to give it double strike now. Wait a second. 3, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ugh. So close. Yeah, this is okay. This deck is really disappointing me. I'm just gonna say. Granted, yeah. All right, the Pawpatch recruits seemed pretty bad. These might be better along with some of these on the play. Yeah, I mean, I could be sideboarding incorrectly too. But like, we just should not be losing in that instance, like that late with our opponent stuck on 2 mana and just us having absolutely nothing to do. That's just inexcusable. 1 lander with an elf and a tender wild guide. I can do. I don't think I can keep that hand. Wow, this is a really poor showing, I will say. You know, one thing with this deck is just there's not a lot of synergy. All right. There's the delayed Llanowar elf. I guess the synergy is play a bunch of things that make tokens. I guess that's the synergy. Okay. Manifold Mouse is the play from the opponent. Not a big deal yet, so let's just run out the Sanguine Evangelist. Okay. Now I can kill the Manifold Mouse. They're gonna give it double strike, I guess? Yeah. Let's pay the ward cost on this. Get a scry going. I'll keep the Salvager, I assume. Okay. Getting in for 4. Feels like I need more ways to pump my team. I know the original version plays the Wiltleaf Liege. Seems like that could be an interesting addition. Like, I can't even attack to a 3/3 Heartfire hero. Yep. 3/3, my only weakness. Heartfire hero. Innkeeper's Talent, okay. Wow. I don't know that I like that attack. How do I want to block? Maybe just with the Evangelist? No, I can also attack with the Evangelist. No, let's block. Because the token, I get to pump with the Salvager as well. Right? So that seems excellent. Obstinate Baloth also seems excellent, but I definitely want to pump my crew. Yeah, so I can't attack with a Restless Prairie. Alright, sure. Alright. I'm at 20 life. I'd be pretty shocked if this deck can find a way to kill me here, so... Manifold Mouse, I guess. Yeah, Screaming Nemesis doesn't do it. A land off the top would actually be pretty good. I think they're just dead here. Okay, 4. I just feel like this is just too many attackers. Especially if I draw an untapped land. I didn't find an untapped land, unfortunately. But let's see. If I activate the Restless Prairie in attack, these also trample, but if I activate this in attack, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attackers. The problem is they can block all my ground creatures. So I guess I just attack here. All right. And that should be game. The thing is, they don't have any way to give their creatures trample. Desperation attack with everything, sure. Blocks. All right, we're at 9. Woof, we got one. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This one was really... These games have been frustrating. And a lot of it is probably my own doing as well. There's just... You have a little bit less agency here, but just got to keep fighting, trucking along. I think probably I'm boarding out too many of the big impactful cards, and I need to keep them in this type of matchup. Like the mono white matchup was bad. The first one, mono red, it was close. So I just, I feel like I just boarded out too much of my good stuff. All right. Anyways, let's try to at least close things out with a 50% win rate here. Gonna keep this. No 1-drop, but we do have turn 2 Tender Wild Guide into Overlord of the Mistmoors. And if they kill my Tender Wild Guide, well, I do have the Sandstorm Salvager as well. And given that they played turn 1 Blackcleave Cliffs, I bet my Tender Wild Guide dies, but that's okay because we have the Sandstorm Salvager. In theory, this should be a good matchup. In theory. Unless they have some crazy haymaker that goes over the top. Okay. Torch the tower. Percussionist. Okay. They missed land drops, so I don't want to block the percussionist. They need to cast Torch to Tower. I assume they're going to kill my Salvager. If they kill my Salvager, then I won't be able to turn on the Collector's Cage just yet. Unless I find a 1 or 2 mana creature. Like Llanowar Elf off the top would be very good, because I can go Llanowar Elf into the cage. Does this kill enchantments? It sure does. Oh wow, they just brought a Duskmourn block constructed deck here. Okay. You draw some cards, but you're even further behind on board. Oh, you get to torch the tower with Disturbing Mirth. That's great. They get to manifest? Oh, they're just not manifesting? Okay. Oh, I guess they can sack it to the other Mirth. All right, let's try our best to go as wide as possible. Collector's Cage should be turned online here, so I'm just hoping that I just have far too much power and toughness in play, and that's going to make it difficult for them. That is the hope here, at least. Wow. I mean, their deck is firing on all cylinders, I will say. Jeez, how many removal spells do you have? I mean, I guess they have all of them. Very, very sweet deck. Okay, so Melira was a good draw, and actually a very good card in this matchup. Okay, let's play the Melira. Let's pump Sandstorm Salvager. Let's play Oh! Oh, I can cast either half. I did not know this. That's super interesting. Okay. I think it's better to just get Virtue of Loyalty going and just have gigantic creatures, but I'm not sure. It's like that, or do I want a 2/2 in play? Screaming Nemesis is a really weird card in this deck. It just doesn't seem to fit the theme of what the rest of what this deck is trying to do. I do have Collector's Cage going. They have 4 cards in hand. Okay. I think we just wait and just kind of grow our squad. Let's target it like, let's do it like this. Let's do that. White, green. Turn that into a creature. Fear of missing out, sure. All right. I mean, that seemed pretty good. Like, I'm building a huge squad. The thing is, Overlord of the Mistmoors will probably die, especially if they have an exile removal spell. But if they have a destroy effect, then Overlord of the Mistmoors will live because I have the Melira in play. What does Braids do? To begin your end step, you may sack an artifact, creature, enchantment. If you do, each opponent may sack a permanent of their choice that shares a type. If they don't, okay. That seems pretty weak. Okay, sure. Oh, one note though. One note is that Screaming Nemesis deals like a ton of damage if I attack with Overlord. So I don't want to make the Overlord that much bigger. Do I want to sack a land? I guess so. Oh, wait, no! Hold. Oh, wait, no, I had to sack a land, right? If you sack a permanent other that shares a type. Okay, sure. All right, what do I do here? The problem is I don't want to attack into the Screaming Nemesis unless I feel pretty confident that I have a lethal attack. Otherwise, what, I take 7? That just seems like so much damage. Spiteful Hexmage, sure. All right, so they're at 13 life. I have a huge army. See what they sack. Ah, the Overlord. They have 2 cards in hand. I have... I'm just trying to keep my life total at a reasonable amount. The thing is, I actually want my Evangelist to die, because that just gives me another flyer, right? All right. I'm feeling decent about this. Okay. They are 2 life. I have a lethal flyer. And next turn I can just attack for a truckload of damage. But obviously an effect like Final Vengeance or something can also just completely turn things around. Fear of missing out, sure. I suppose they can attack with Screaming Nemesis. Looks like they have a Final Vengeance. The Final Vengeance would make things very difficult for me. Yep. Oh my gosh, these Screaming Nemesis are kind of annoying. 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 5 attackers. Oh, God. I mean, they have to block this at least. And I'm probably sacking my Melira, honestly. Depending on how they block. Alright. Blocking with the Manifest Creature, sure. What do you have now? Okay. I don't think there's a point in pumping up the Restless Prairie, really. Clockwork Percussionist. Alright, that gives them 6 blockers. Oh no, 7 blockers. They have the Restless Vents. Okay. Alright, let's not mess this up. What does this have? Menace? Alright, so let's block all the things that we can kill. Alright, Percussionist exiles and reveals. Alright, we're good. Well, that was certainly close from a position where I thought I was massively ahead. Maybe in hindsight, I should have just made the token. That could have been better. Yeah, they're super dead now. Die instantly before the trigger gets me. Alright, our opponent's at -22. We figured it out. Alright, red-black sacrifice. They're not as aggressive. Certainly want Devout Decree. I also saw Hopeless Nightmare, so I feel like Obstinate Ballast is probably fine. I mean, Beza's probably also fine. Like, all these cards are all fine. Pawpatch Formation didn't seem very good. Pawpatch Recruit is probably very good in this matchup. Do I want Parting Gust? Doesn't seem particularly strong. Like, I don't really want to give them another thing to sack. Like, I don't really want to give them another token anyways. And I think I just kind of want to overload on good value creatures and just try to win that way. We do need to cut 3 cards here, though. I think the Wild Guides are probably bad. Yeah, like, Parting Gust, maybe I still... Is it like a necessary evil where I just need to have some in the deck? And Collector's Cage, maybe I can shave 1 on the draw. We'll try something like this. Well, that is a horrific hand, if I've ever seen one. So we're going to mulligan this. This is a much better hand. Okay. Oh, they kept the 1 lander and we drew Malira. All right. We've got hope here, friends. I kind of want to save the Devout Decrees for... Oh, gosh. Okay. Yeah, it's fine. Screaming Nemesis. That's what I want to save it for. I think Pawpatch Recruit seems really good in this matchup. Okay. They just have like, they have so many cards. Let's see what kind of removal they have. Final Vengeance or Torch the Tower would obviously be very good here. Actually, Final Vengeance would be good. I don't know about Torch the Tower. That is, the Spiteful Hexmage is kind of annoying. All right. Let's develop a board. If I draw an untapped land, being able to go Pawpatch Recruit number 2 with Sandstorm Salvager seems great. Having Melira in play as a way to protect the Salvager is also great. Oh, hey! The thing! The thing we talked about! The thing, we did it! They do have a lot more resources than we do, but we have a really great board. So we need to take advantage of that. They're going to sack Disturbing Mirth here to make another creature, probably. And then they're going to be able to draw a card here. The Braids is probably a worthy target of the Devout Decree. Beza. It's okay, but... Certainly don't want Llanowar Elves here. Yeah, they just don't have great blocks here. Like, they're going to have to lose 2 creatures if they want to block. They just chumped the Obstinate Baloth. Okay. Let's get in for maximum damage here. They're at 13, and we have a very, very nice board. But they have 17,000 cards in hand. I will say, if this was a draft deck, man, I would feel completely hopeless. Like, look at how many cards they have. It's like the best draft deck ever. I mean, it's probably a fine constructed deck, too. Like, Disturbing Mirth is a very powerful Magic card. And these are all really solid 1-mana creatures. Okay, Vampire Hexmage, sure. Disturbing Mirth. Okay. Oh, man. Okay, what does this do? Just draws me a card. Hold on, hold on. Before I do that, do I have a lethal attack if I attack with Restless Prairie? I mean, they just can't have good blocks, right? Like chump, 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 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, okay. This is just way too much. Yeah. There was a little bit too much wheel spinning there, and I'm sure they had a lot of removal, but the issue was I had the Pawpatch Recruit, which did a lot of work there, so I think they instead opted to just play a bunch of other things, which wasn't removal, and we got them. And the Obstinate Baloth also getting it done there. Okay, so we have done 4 matches. Let's do a little conclusion here with what my thoughts are on the deck, okay? Like I said, this deck is totally fine. Totally fine. You're playing a bunch of really good cards. Look at this. Look at how expensive this deck is. Rare, rare, mythic, 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 rare, rare, right? It's just a collection of the best rate cards you can play for white and green. And that's, in a lot of cases, can be good. The issue I had with this deck is there's just a lot of significant weaknesses depending on the matchup that you play against. So I think there are certain metagames where this can be very good, but there are certain metagames where this can be very bad. If you take this to a big field tournament, you don't know what you're going to play against necessarily. And in those instances, like, you could kind of struggle. Maybe this deck is good against red. Maybe it's fine against Dimir midrange, because Dimir midrange plays a bunch of spot removal. And the whole theory of playing a bunch of these token generators means that you get to kind of pseudo blank their removal, because every time they use a cut down on one of your token makers or go for the throw, you still have something left over. And also, just when I played the deck, and obviously this is just me picking up the deck, I'm much less familiar with how this deck plays out compared to like a mono red deck and a Dimir mid-range deck. So I just felt a lot less comfortable piloting this deck. There was just a lot of me just sitting there and like growing a token and hoping that token gets me there. Partially because, one, this deck just has no interaction. You have 3 Parting Gusts, that's it. It's 3 Parting Gusts and a bunch of creatures, right? And you're just kind of trying to brute force your way through wins through sheer power and toughness. Also, the Tender Wild Guides, I get the theory behind it, but I'm not sure that I like this more than some of the other 2-mana options that are available. I believe Seraphic Steed is a card that's played in some of the other decks. Like, can you play a 2-mana, 2/2 mana creature in Standard? I think the answer is no, for the most part. I think there's enough going for it. I understand why you play this, but I just don't know that I want to play a card like this. It just doesn't give me enough stats for what I'm looking for in this format. So I feel like this probably should be something else. Virtue of Loyalty has obviously always been a very, very powerful card, and it works well with Tender Wild Guide, right? Because you can ramp into this and kind of go nuts. But mono red is a thing. People are playing tons of cheap removal. And in that world, like, your mana creature is just going to die in a lot of instances too. So I just don't know that I'm the biggest fan of this. But I wouldn't classify this as a tier 1 deck just yet. But if you want to just beat people down and curve out and play a bunch of creatures and you're sick of playing mono red, this is certainly a fine option. Certainly something that you can just take to your local event and still have success with, because it just plays full stop, just a bunch of really solid, powerful cards. But for me, I'd probably be recommending something like Esper Bounce, Dimir Bounce, the top contenders, Gruul, those decks over something like this. But that's probably just a matter of personal preference. But I will say, being able to play a deck with 4 copies of Llanowar Elves and 4 copies of Pawpatch Recruit, there's definitely something there. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, as I really do appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for more daily videos just like this. If you've enjoyed this content and wanted to support the channel in another way, my Patreon is the best way to do so. That's patreon.com/paulcheon. Additionally, check out tcgplayer.com for all your TCG singles and sealed product needs. Whether you need some booster boxes or some singles to round out your constructed decks, tcgplayer.com is the place to go. Make sure you click that affiliate link in the description below before you make any purchases. Last but not least, check out heavyplay.com for premium Magic the Gathering supplies and accessories. If you want top-of-the-line deck boxes, playmats, sleeves, life pads, and more, go to heavyplay.com/paulcheon for 10% off your first order. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.